What does it take to work as a freelance marketer? What do you need to scale? And what does it look like to run an agency? Today, I have one of our digital marketers work group members here, Heidi Schmidt, to share the insight of how she started her freelance business and how she scaled it to six figures. Hey, I'm Emily Reagan. Welcome to the YouTube channel where we're talking all about offering marketing services as a freelancer. We're all about going above and beyond what a virtual assistant is, claiming a real job title, and leaning into value-based services that are in marketing because you can charge more and get more schedule freedom. This is the same work I have done as a mom of four, as a military spouse moving all over the country, and it has helped my family pay for extra things. It's given me my brain back. I really enjoy working with clients, but I also love just having money in the bank. So on this YouTube channel, we dive into other freelancers doing the work, how to get better with our marketing services. You can check out the show notes below. We're going to have a link to my free Facebook group. You can come join and continue the conversation. I also have a guide, my top 10 marketing services that I started with and how I had scaled my business all the way from editing videos to Pinterest management. You'll get that below. I encourage you to listen to the full podcast episode with our guest today over on my podcast, Unicorns Unite. Today, I have Heidi Schmidt here. She's one of our digital marketers of work group. She is a social media consultant who works with small, mid-sized women-owned service providers and defense contractors. She lives in Annapolis, Maryland, and she's going to give you the quick dose on what it takes to run an agency, some of the highs she's had working with clients, some of the lessons she's learned. And like I said, go check out the full episode over on Unicorns Unite. Where did you get this idea to start freelancing for yourself?
So when the world shut down in 2020, I was like, I can't go back to an office. So I was like, well, I gotta make some money somehow. And I had always wanted to work for myself. I was tired of feeling like I don't have any freedom over my life. Like I'm beholden to someone else. Like I want to see if I can do this. And I tried freelancing back in like 2008 before I got married. I tried freelancing, but I was only like 3 years out of college. So I didn't have that level of confidence in myself and my abilities. So, like, I think I had one client and we just kind of like, we never had an official contract and we just kind of petered out. It wasn't a good time for me. I didn't have the self discipline because you definitely have to have self discipline to be a freelancer. You have to track your own deadlines. Like, you are your boss, you manage your time, which is kind of the up and downside of freelancing.
I'm glad you brought that up because that is another downside of freelancing. Downsides, if you don't work, you don't get paid as a freelancer.
Yes. And I know you talked a lot about the retainer model for virtual assistants, for freelancers. I exclusively work on a retainer model. I used to do hourly work, and I think last fall I let go of my last hourly client because I was just like, this isn't like I have no more hours left to give, and you're not compensating me at what I should be compensated. Like my first retainer client paid me like $500 a month. Looking back, I'm like, that is so low. Like people need to know what they're worth, and what you offer like is worth more money than you give yourself credit for.
There are people who are listening who want to get to that. And we talk about that a lot in EDMA school, and the work group is setting that minimal number you're willing to show up and turn your brain on that makes it worth it to you. What does your agency offer now in terms of services? How has that number changed from 500?
When I first started, I was like, I can do all the things. I built websites. I built like Squarespace websites for friends, realized I don't like building websites. I really hate building websites. So I did that. I did HubSpot consulting, and I was probably charging about like $30 to $40 an hour. And I would price myself, okay, it's going to take me this many hours plus like 30%. Like that's how I always tell people, like, price how many hours you want to spend and then add 30% because that's taxes.
What would you say is like the biggest benefit of having an agency?
Scaling to an agency allows you to add revenue streams. Like I couldn't do VIP days or strategy sessions if I was still doing like 100 posts a week for all of my clients, like that is a lot of work. And so it has really allowed me to scale my income, and scaling to a team has just given me that freedom and having the ability as a freelancer to take vacation. I pride myself in the relationships that I build with my clients. People always ask, like, how do you get clients? All of my clients have come from word of mouth. There are people who know me. There are people who know someone else that I know. Like none of my clients have come from social media.
I think that's so funny because we put pressure on ourselves to show up on social, especially as brand new service providers. And I say all the time, you don't need social media to find clients. Explain this phenomenon.
Here's a story. So my first client was a defense contractor, and about a month and a half after I started working with them, they were acquired by another company. They had a sister company, and the two were still kind of operating separately. The sister company became my second retainer client. One of the recruiters at my original client left that company, like just like end of 2022, he left.
Okay.
And summer of 2023, the new company that he works for, he brought over to me. He's like, you need to manage our social media. So the recruiter from like sister company, she recommended me to someone that she knew in the same industry. This is all like defense contracting. And so one of her friends that she knew who was like a subcontractor for them has a small company and they became a client. So that's like how so many of my clients have come to me. Like it's usually someone who knows me.
Yeah, I mean, what you're describing is a lot what we're talking about. I mean, even today on the Workgroup Happy Hour, we're talking about, going after more of the corporate clients over on LinkedIn because they are the ones who have the budget. They are the ones who will give you more autonomy, that will trust you, that will see you as an expert, that not will not be in your business. And I think that that is it's like good to hear.
It's kind of like that conversation that a lot of people, a lot of coaches and like freelance coaches have, like, should you have a niche? I don't. I don't consider myself to be super niche. I'll work with anyone who pays my prices. You want someone who really values your work.
How do you attract this person? Because you're really talking to the pain point of a lot of people in the work group.
You just have to kind of put yourself out there. I found Facebook groups that have a lot of my ideal clients, and being active in those Facebook groups is really what has helped me grow. I've gotten questions from people who are just starting out, and it's like, I put myself out there. I go networking. You have to be active in your community. Like it all starts at home.
And then I'm also really curious about what your content creators are doing for you and like what that approval process looks like.
My content creators, for a while I didn't have them in on my client meetings, and then I realized no, 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 they really need to be. So they sit in on client meetings so that they understand client tone, client voice, client brand. They create the content in Loomly and I review it. I review every post that goes out for all of my clients, and then the client approves it. So yeah, there's been systems that I have struggled to put in place to make things streamlined. It's a little bit of growing pains. I feel like every agency has them, but having those systems in place are so important as you grow, like project management tools, content calendar system, like what's your approval process, what's your onboarding process, because up until recently I didn't even have an onboarding process. I was just like, hey, come work with me. And it's gotten refined, but when you're in it, when you're in the thick of it and you're like, oh my god, I can't handle more of this work, but I really want this client, you hire quickly. And half of my content creators I hired through Upwork. Two most recent ones that I've hired, I actually hired from the work group because I know that they're well trained. I know that they're qualified. Like, so, if work group members grow, like use that as a resource because it certainly helped me.
What I hear is that you are just not afraid to jump in and just do it.
I had this goal. I wanted to make six figures because when I got laid off in 2020, I was making $56,000 a year at 37 years old with 15 years of marketing experience, which is grossly underpaid for
Yeah.
the marketing industry. Like, let's be honest. It took me about a year to meet that salary, like gross revenue. And then within, 3.5 years, I hit six figures. And as a 40-year-old woman, like that was my goal. I was like, I want six figures.
It's funny how
And
those numbers just keep us motivated, you know?
people don't talk about like money is an okay motivator. Like I feel like a lot of freelancers are afraid to say like money is a motivator. I've raised my prices because I've also realized over time, like, okay, if I have a content creator that I'm paying X hundred of dollars per month to work on X number of clients, like, okay, what do I need to make sure that after taxes and expenses, like I am still profitable?
Yeah, because you
But
have to
when you
work backward from those numbers to figure it out. You can't start an agency and not know how long things take and the cost to produce, right? Cost of goods sold and all of that. So good for you. I actually want to like switch directions just a little bit because you are a member of our digital marketers work group and you've already said you've hired 2 unicorns from that group. Has it helped you in your journey at all, or what kind of support do you get inside?
So, one, I love your happy hour calls because I love the connection. Like having a community of other marketers, like being a freelancer is lonely. It is a lonely, lonely place sometimes. So, having other people to just kind of like chat with and share your wins and share your struggles has been so powerful for me. Also, I just love the resources that you share. The resources are so powerful because we get so in the trenches as freelancers and just servicing our clients. Like, you have to look at running your business, and other opportunities, like understanding what else is going on in the freelance world. What are some other services? Not just for me, like I don't offer these, but if I know a client who's launching a course, like, hey, I can recommend you to this amazing group of other marketers who are super well trained and who know, and you might be able to find someone.
Just so good for upholding your boundaries because we have this bleeding heart. We want to help. We don't want to turn people down, but when you can refer them to someone who will take care of them. And I'm so honored to have you in the work group too, sharing your insight, like hiring other people to come help you in your agency. And like, it's like such like the vision I had for us freelancers and like uniting, unicorns uniting, which is like the whole point. Okay, before I ask you the last question, you have a freebie for us about your content planning guide.
I created it for a lot of businesses to just kind of give them a framework to think about their content. Like, it comes with some best practices, it comes with some templates to kind of, you can print them out just to kind of like jot ideas down. And it kind of gives you best practices like how to repurpose your content, how to plan your content, how many days a week should you post, all that kind of fun stuff. So it's really just a guide to help you better plan your content, because the one thing that so many of my clients struggle with when they come to me is just showing up consistently.
The final question is, what's one piece of advice you'd give to a budding brand new freelancer who's just getting started?
Do it messy. Like, nothing has to be perfect when you're just starting out. When you're learning to price yourself, like that's not going to be your price forever. Fake it till you make it. Like, if you question yourself, like people hire you because of your expertise, never doubt that. And yeah, show up messy. Like, be authentic. Like, you don't have to be perfect. That's what makes us relatable. That's what makes people want to work with you when you are imperfect. So show up messy.
I agree. The fast start, just do it. Don't overthink it. And then you can always go back and refine it. All right, thanks for joining us. We have the full episode over on the podcast Unicorns Unite. Below, you can find Heidi's content planning guide so you can get social media working in your business or use this on behalf of some of the clients that you're working with. And I'd love to hear, how did you like the video? Did you learn a lot? What else do you want to learn? I'm looking at your comments below. Go ahead and hit subscribe so you don't miss out on our next video and our next marketing lesson. And I encourage you, if you are doing this type of work as a freelance marketer, you're beyond an admin virtual assistant. You are focused on launching, podcasting, content management, social media management, customer fulfillment, community management. If you are doing those things, I'd love to have you inside our community, the Digital Marketers Work Group. We have certain times of year where we open the enrollment. So if you get your application in now, we'll let you know when you can join us, and you can get access to advanced marketing training, referrals, networks, and lots of job leads. All right, I'll see you inside.